Good morning. Pardon the slightly late start today. Sometimes that happens. We're not fully organized here on the farm yet, so these things happen. But glad you're all here. Good morning, Hassan. Hope you're doing well. B for victory. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Indeed. And I like this one. Hello, tribe. We are a tribe, right? We are a tribe. Let's have some coffee and do Bitcoin. Indeed, we are doing Bitcoin now. I love doing Bitcoin. And Daniel, good morning and bon matin. Daniel, thanks for the welcome back to Vermont yesterday. I'm loving it. I feel great the minute I cross the border here. Despite America's troubles, I definitely still feel some interesting feeling when I cross the border. It never goes away. P-Man Van wasn't exactly tech. It's just the general order of things down here. When you screw up your orders, I have all these sort of mental triggers at 22. I got to make my coffee, and I wasn't there yet, and just behind, right? But that's okay. You're not here to hear about my excuses and reasons why I was late and all the rest of that stuff. You're here for the fakest news I could find. What is our Moscow time for today? Well, looks like in Ireland they had some leaked documents about some of their farming stuff. And here's what they say. Revealed. 600 million euro budget needed to cull 65,000 cows every year for 3 years to meet climate goals. That'll be 10% of the livestock herd that needs to be displaced, they call it. They call it displaced. So there you go. It's going to cost about $200 million a year to kill cows. And I guess, are people going to eat it? We don't know. You've seen these protests for climate in Europe, and they're pretty serious. They're blocking traffic all the time, and one of them had an interview yesterday, and here's what she said. The moment a Just Stop Oil fanatic admits she'd understand if her own mother was stopped from getting to hospital by eco-clowns blocking the roads as mob cause chaos in London. Her own mother, no worries. Here's the best one. CNN hasn't made an appearance in a while in Moscow time. So when they do, it's really important that we underline it. So here's what they say. The debt ceiling bill was signed last night, everyone. Oh my goodness, right? We're going to talk about Janet Yellen in a few minutes and what she had to say about it all. But before we get there, here's what CNN Politics had to say. Top Democrats say Biden should make this year's craziness the last debt limit fight ever. So what are they going to say? What's it going to be, right? I'll read you a bit of the article just because it's interesting. Even as Joe Biden appears to have pushed off reaching the next debt limit until 2025, top Democrats on Capitol Hill say what we really need is what we should have done last fall as well, is to come out in favor of a drastic change to strip Congress of this power. God forbid the representatives of the people shouldn't have any say in money spending. Come on. Originally, Boyle backed eliminating the debt limit entirely, but over the years, he refined the proposal in an attempt to broaden its appeal, and his most recent bill gives the administration the authority through the Treasury Department to raise the debt limit while retaining Congress's ability to override the decision if it wants. Oh, so they did give them a little bit left. So there you go. That's what can happen, right? That's what could happen. We'll see. So today in the news, everything's kind of backwards and funny, and there's all kinds of funny news, right? All kinds of funny news. The first one that I found, and this really sort of sets the tone. So we all know about Hunter Biden's legal trouble, right? Hunter Biden, all kinds of legal trouble. Some people saying he's going to go to jail for this and that, but he's got some defenses. And let me tell you what one of them is. So this is from Politico. So because apparently he had an unregistered weapon or something. So the son of the Democrat president who wants to change gun laws is using, so they're saying that what he did with the unregistered gun is actually unconstitutional. So Hunter Biden is now a Second Amendment advocate. He's using the Second Amendment to defend himself in all of these Hunter Biden doc leaks. So Politico says Supreme Court's expansion of gun rights could be good news for Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden's lawyers have told the Department of Justice that if he's charged with owning a gun as a drug user, right? Sorry, that's what it is. It's not the unregistered. It's that he's a drug user with the gun. They will argue that the ban is unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. It's pretty good stuff. Unintended, unexpected consequences. So chaos has this advantage of mixing things up so much that you get these crazy results. So no kidding. Hunter Biden is going to fight for Second Amendment rights. I'm okay with that. Let's go Hunter. We're on Team Hunter now. All right. We love Team Hunter. Now, here's a note on just how backwards and crazy some of the media can actually be in terms of these unintended consequences. So you've heard now for a while that Florida, right, is like a place, it's Pride Month. You're seeing even signing up today, Restream, like their logo is a sailboat. Or no, that's Midjourney. The Midjourney logo is a sailboat. That's obviously got the Pride flag on it today. And we know with the state of Florida, the NAACP released a travel warning the other day, right? Released a travel warning the other day. And the travel warning was for gay people. So this was last week, right? So they said that members of we're very pro LGBTQ plus on this show, right? So last week we mentioned this. The NAACP has issued a travel advisory for Florida, joining other civil rights groups in warning potential tourists that recent laws championed by Ron DeSantis are openly hostile towards the LGBTQ plus community. So that's from the Associated Press. We read that here on the show last week, right? Well, what happened today or yesterday? Associated Press again. Central Florida is about to become a hub of LGBTQ plus life. It's a hub now. So last week, don't go. This week, it's a hub. That's because tens of thousands of people are flocking to the area's theme parks and hotels this week during the decades-long tradition known as the Gay Days, which we support. Go have gay days, as long as it's adults. And so, again, you get the media who actually went with a whole bunch of articles last week, travel advisories for Florida. And this week it's, it's gay days. Come on, it's a tradition. It's going to be flooded with these folks in the next few days. So pretty funny stuff. The other big story you get in terms of these sort of contradictions and chaos and everyone picking up on it. So I don't know if you guys have seen the memes. The president fell down yesterday. God bless Joe Biden. Just one of the greatest advocates for the US dollar, one of the greatest symbols of US dollar hegemony. Fell on a sandbag, couldn't handle it, collapsed on the ground. Big yard sale wipeout, right? And the memes have come out obviously quickly. The famous one that everyone loves is when Trump hits golf balls. And so you see Trump teeing up, he hits a golf ball, and then it cuts to Biden, and he gets hit by the golf ball in the head and falls down. It's a pretty good one, right? Pretty good. But people were quick to point out that just a couple years ago, Trump, in a very similar thing, speaking at West Point to the graduates, it was rainy, and he came down the stairs when he was president really slowly. So the New York Times ran a front page story, says Trump's halting walk down ramp raises new health questions. The president also appeared to have trouble raising a glass of water to his mouth during a speech at West Point days before he turned 74, the oldest a president has been in his first term, right? So they went on and on about this. Now today, people are saying, well, where are the headlines for Biden? Like, why isn't anyone talking about him falling down, right? Where's those stories? Drew Holden says, looking forward to Biden's fall raises new health questions about Biden's age. And then you get all kinds of people with the cope. So you've heard Sticks, Hex, and Hammer pulled out a bunch of cope emails or texts today and tweets. Here's one. It's from Kate Benningfield. I know personally, I have never, ever tripped over anything a day in my life. Not once. I'm sure these top Democrats haven't either. Mountain goats, these folks. Here's another one. From Nurse Mary demands action. Another one of these blue wave in her Twitter handle people. Think about how his regular exercise has given him so much bone strength. Nary a sprain, much less a fracture. I aspire to be like him in my 80s, sharp, resilient, and full of wit. Right? So, again, things happen and you get all these reactions, and today everything's kind of backwards, right? Or in some sense predictable too, because we could imagine that media would take this approach. But it's another one of those examples of when you put things that are so obviously similar next to each other, you get contrast, and contrast is one of the best ways to change someone's mind, to reframe things, to introduce new ideas. Remember, everyone laughed at Trump when any of these, oh, you're too old things came up. Now, because they laughed at it, it's one of those rare instances where information traverses the two solitudes and the echo chambers that exist within right and left politics. So because people took the time to watch Trump fall, or not fall, but go slow, and they all laughed at him, it's one of the few things they know he did that they remember. Right now, of course, it doesn't mean anyone's going to remember at this time. The memory hole is real. People are so stupid that they'll just change the channel and continue to pay attention to what they're being shown, not what is actually happening outside of what's being shown. But nevertheless, it's an important sort of marker. And again, it's one of these examples of maybe a few people notice, does this make any sense? Why is this happening this way? So the other one that I found today that's sort of in this vein is this Elon Musk censorship story. So if you guys didn't pick up on that yesterday, what happened was the What is a Woman documentary from Matt Walsh, the Daily Wire folks. They published it and tried. It's the year release of it, so it came out a year ago. Very, very popular thing. Not easy to watch, by the way, because you really see the sort of, as Cernovich puts it, the demonic brainwashing that goes into people who simply can't ask or answer a very simple question: what is a woman, right? So the thing was really effective because Matt Walsh in the documentary doesn't actually speak very often, doesn't argue, there's no debating. He just forces people to spin their tires, and it's just an exercise in watching cognitive dissonance, right? So when you can actually see in a focus in like a petri dish or in some kind of a box, let's say, right? And that's what the movie almost becomes. Now remember, documentaries are propaganda by nature, right? So never believe anyone, oh, it's a documentary, it's somehow more weighted and neutral. Never the case. All documentaries are more explicitly about persuasion and pushing people in one angle or another, right? So the show What is a Woman, very interesting and a great approach. Like I said, forcing other folks to talk about something that should be simple exposes that fault line between brainwashing and cognitive dissonance, when the brainwashing just won't go away and just keep smashing on top of the cognitive dissonance to try to produce answers. So that's why you get all the word salad in the movie, right? What is a woman? And then they can't answer it. So you get to watch cognitive dissonance again and again and again. That's not always easy, because what you're seeing is the actual power of the brainwashing hooks. And by seeing the power of the brainwashing hooks, you get a little more sense of just how insidious and sticky it really is, right? Because it is sticky. This brainwashing that's being used across the spectrum is indeed very persuasive. It works, right? It works. like I said, don't expect anyone in the case of not anyone. There are some people, but don't expect it to be like a widespread thing where people are like, oh yeah, they treated Trump differently when Trump's age came into question than they are with Biden, even though Biden's case is much, much worse. So there are a few people that move over because of the contrast. Can't really expect it necessarily. But the story gets what happened with the Elon Musk thing becomes interesting for a few reasons. So they made a deal to put the What is a Woman documentary on Twitter last year, or for the 1 year anniversary yesterday, right? So yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of What is a Woman coming out. They thought they had a deal. Jeremy Boring, the CEO of Daily Wire, who is one of the best media operators and CEOs in the world. So I tried to get him at Bitcoin 2023. I spoke with his team a few times. We'll probably get him next year. I'm very interested in getting Jeremy Boring. I love the chocolate bar thing. First of all, Jeremy's Razors, just running a media company in the environment that he's in, which is, highly censored, very adversarial. It's not easy to run a media company in that environment. And I think Bitcoin media companies have a lot to learn from what he goes through. So I think there is some connection there. When the $1 razors went into the virtue signaling game, they pulled funding from him. So he created Jeremy's Razors, and one of the funniest commercials you'll ever see ever, right? Just a hilarious advertisement that he used to explain why a media company got into the razor game. He did the same with the Hershey's chocolate. As Hershey's became virtue signalers, he created the she-her chocolate bar and the he-him chocolate bar. The she-her has no nuts. The he-him has nuts. And I think these chocolate bars are doing well. It's kind of a same thing as Bud Light and the beer, right? There's all these sort of protests against different consumer products, and there's conservative alternatives that are coming out now, and people are talking about that. So Jeremy Boring released a Twitter thread yesterday trying to explain what went wrong with Elon Musk, because everything happened in real time. What happened was they put the What is a Woman documentary on Twitter. It was free for 24 hours or whatever. But someone at Twitter, we don't know who, someone at Twitter limited the visibility of the movie. So you couldn't like it, you couldn't comment, you couldn't share it. Now, we don't know exactly what happened, right? Some people think it's a person inside the company. Other people say there's no way, it's just an independent person. Elon Musk could have or should have known about it. Elon Musk started communicating in Twitter threads as the whole Daily Wire team started saying to Elon, hey, this is crazy. What's going on? I thought you were for free speech. So there was a whole bunch of stuff around that. You get Francis Pouliot, who shared the movie, shared why it was getting throttled. All kinds of people sort of commenting on it. You get Ian Miles Chong, who says the visibility issue prevents it from even being commented on at the moment. It should be shareable on timelines too. Elon jumped in and said, we're updating the system tomorrow so that those who follow the Real Daily Wire will see this in their feed, but it won't be recommended to non-followers, nor will any advertising associated with it. He also says commenting and deliberate sharing will be allowed. Sensitive content just won't be pushed to people unless they ask for it, or if a friend sends it to them. So all kinds of people talking about sensitive content. What are you talking about? Tucker Goodrich says, how is this sensitive? Because the woke say so. The mind virus is real. It's in your head too. Luke Rudkowski, who we had at Bitcoin 2023, says, what's sensitive about a documentary? Nick Carter says, Elon, you get hardcore porn if you search completely inoffensive terms on here, which I've seen. It's unbelievable when you come across that. You desperately need to recalibrate. So lots of people going on about this. Again, Ian Miles Chong saying this is wild. Twitter suppressed a video containing the Daily Wire video shortly after Elon himself responded to it because someone else put it on there. Now, Elon, we don't know the whole story, right? So he came out and did say the Streisand effect will set this to an all-time record. Now, the interesting take is that Styx, Hex, and Hammer also believe that to be the case, right? So you can hear all these people, Elon, you're censoring LGBTQ plus trans stuff, and therefore the woke mind virus is in you, and other people saying, there's international rules. We'll talk about Coach Felicia, who had said that, right? He can't go against the laws that are there. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, I think, had the most interesting take. He says it's an A/B test. Which one is more influential, the site's ability to limit spread or the ability of a large influencer to promote the material? It's an experiment. That's what Sticks, Hex, and Hammer says. Is that true? I don't know. That feels pretty true. It feels like Sticks has it right here. But I don't want to just go around and give Elon necessarily the benefit of the doubt on this case. But Elon did share his actual views on the trans issues and virtue signaling and all that. And I will say I more or less agree with Elon's take, and this is what he says. This was a mistake by many people at Twitter. It is definitely allowed. Whether or not you agree with using someone's preferred pronouns, not doing so is at most rude and certainly breaks no laws. I should note that I do personally use someone's preferred pronouns, just as I use someone's preferred name, simply from the standpoint of good manners. However, for the same reason, I object to rude behavior, ostracism, or threats of violence if the wrong pronoun or name is used. He went further in another tweet to say that anyone who gets involved in mutilation of children, anyone who gets involved in puberty blockers being given to kids, he's now setting up as one of his life, premier objectives to persecute, stop this. I don't think I saved that tweet, but I've got it here somewhere. So he comes out and says, that this will be one of my main goals going forward. There's no way I'm gonna do this. He says that the problem is going to be fixed tomorrow. So that's what brings some perspective that it's someone inside the company, not someone that Elon knows, but I don't know the answer to that. But here's what he also said yesterday. So this is it. He talked about there's two tweets here. I'm not sure which one to read. Okay, so here's what he says. This is the gist of it. This is a major problem, and he's talking about sex reassignment surgery for minors and puberty blockers. This is a major problem. I will be actively lobbying to criminalize making severe, irreversible changes to children below the age of consent. Shame on those who advocate for this. It is utterly contemptible. So Elon kind of all over the map yesterday, right? Kind of all over the map. Some people, again, say that it's Elon breaking his promises and turning his back and showing his true colors. And if he can't take this seriously, what can we hope for? And Matt Walsh says it again. Our film has been posted for a couple of hours. You cannot retweet it. It will not appear on anyone's feed. It has been flagged as hate speech. It has been blacklisted from the trends list, but it still got basically 1 million views. Elon replied to him saying it will be fixed tomorrow. And in the end today, this morning, before we came on very early this morning, I saw Peter Todd, who was trying to access it. And then he was also commenting on the throttling that was done. And he also mentions that someone put it on a pay-per-view system using Lightning. So good time to remind people that someone posted What is a Woman on lightning.video, pay-per-view with Lightning. I doubt that the original authors will get any of the sats like they should, but it's interesting anyway. And then he talked about the problems with sharing the URL, what the throttling looked like. But he also mentions, and that's how I found out, that it was fixed. So as of this morning, the video was back to being normal. And I guess they still had the throttling of not showing it to people who weren't following the Daily Wire, or not following people who were retweeting the Daily Wire. So I think those were the throttles they put in. But nevertheless, that is more or less the story. But here's what I think about it. And here's where I do have a lot of criticism, let's say, for the Daily Wire. And now, entertaining. We think the Daily Wire is incredibly entertaining. We think Jeremy Boring is probably the best media CEO in the current climate. I think Michael Knowles, one of the hosts, one of the funniest people you'll ever come across, a Bitcoiner in waiting. Ben Shapiro, excellent Bitcoin content. excellent arguments, very clear mind. Matt Walsh, very talented, very smart, creates great content, very entertaining, funny without even really trying to be funny, right? He's a funny guy. Did we not talk about the sun and Bitcoin running? I don't remember. I think we might have missed it. Well, sun's up, Bitcoin's running. I need a sip of coffee. I think we might have missed it. Remind me if I ever miss it. Can't do that to you guys. So, but here's what Felicia, Coach Felicia Killings has to say about this. And she has taken an issue with Matt Walsh for some time now, just about how distracting this focus is for the larger context of what's going on in the world, right? And here's what she says. She says, Biden is poised to win in 2024. Kamala will be his replacement because conservatives are focused on beer, so the Bud Light thing, right? Man girls and boycotting capitalism because Matt said so. And she goes on and on, about the most important issues to conservatives today: beer, man girls, rainbow shirts at Target, rainbow colored trucks, being called Karen, systemic racism against white people. So indeed, one of the problems. Now think about all the other stuff that went on yesterday. We had the debt ceiling thing, right? We had at the same time, you get Janet Yellen coming out, and she releases a whole statement, right? Her whole statement is that pleased that under POTUS leadership, Congress has passed a bipartisan legislation to suspend the debt limit. This protects the full faith and credit of the U.S. and preserves our financial leadership, which is critical to economic growth and stability. So the full faith and credit is back. And indeed, like I don't want to even make it sound like I don't think that these conservative issues have any merit, right? The Bud Light thing, like the beer and the Dylan Mulvaney and the beer thing and this and that, right? Now, I don't want to hear liberals tell conservatives, oh, it's just beer. I mean, they did the same with Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, the butter, the Land of Lakes Indian butter, right? All of that was offensive to someone and everything changed. So it's every side that are seeing product problems and all that. But here's what I think about it, right? And you can even add in the contrast to Matt Walsh and the things that are going on in America with the boycott, and you can contrast it well with Andrew Tate. Now, I am no Andrew Tate fan, right? No fan of Andrew Tate. Don't like the stuff that he says, but I recognize the skill, the quality, the incredible persuasion, and that he might be the most dangerous person to the current fiat system. He might be, right? More than Matt Walsh and any of these guys, because it's so much more serious and so much more targeted. And it's not just conservatives. Oh, what about the beer? And you're making fun of conservative people, and there's other racists too. It's more whining. It's just more whining about the current system. So yesterday, Andrew Tate had finally gotten his first interview since being arrested in Romania, or finally agreed to his first interview since being arrested in Romania. And it was with the BBC. Now, the BBC interviewer got destroyed, just completely demolished in the interview, just totally unprepared for what this person was up against. And so they go up against Andrew Tate and basically didn't do any of the work you need in order to be successful in this forum. So Andrew Tate, stayed respectful. She tried to vilify him by saying that kids more or less follow his example. Where is the tweet that I had for this? See, this is where I'm not. Yeah, here it is. So she tried to build an argument that his success was being misogynistic, and he, sort of said that's not true. And then she tried to blame him, the interviewer, for the poor leadership in the United Kingdom and the problems with with British families and schools and the school system, and realized that she just didn't have the talking points, and he just knocked her out of the park, and she had to quit the interview, right? So his take was, the Matrix is desperate, right? Because of the way they tried to go after him and the way they failed, and the way he got his sort of talking points out there. But in the end, the amount of just look at the amount of unproductive, useless arguing going on, even with the Andrew Tate and BBC thing. Now, he scores direct blows and direct hits, but look at the waste of time that's going on with debates in the beer and the debt ceiling and the Pride Month and all of that stuff, right? The thing it reminds me of, and this comes from Fisher King 64, and reiterated in a few minutes, the connection here will be Moloch, the old pagan god. And so Fisher King says the following, right? Recurrent theme among white collar workers in their 30s and 40s. So now take everything that I just said, all this clown world stuff, the trans video, what about the travel warnings, and the don't go to Florida, but also everyone is going to Florida, and politicians not getting the same treatment by the media. The media is unfair. Remember what unfairness really is, right? The idea of fairness as a metric. Fairness is a concept just to give children and stupid people something to talk about. There is no such thing as fairness in the world. It's not a standard. It's not something you look for. It's not something you orient towards. If there was such a thing guiding us towards fairness, there would be like a million protests for short people. Are they treated fairly? No, not even close, right? Not even close. What about ugly people, right? They're not treated fairly. It doesn't happen. There's no one out protesting for them. Fairness is just it's not a real thing, right? It's just to give people something to talk about. It's like a reference to talk about a thing that you don't get. And so anyone focusing on fairness and we're being treated unfairly and this is so terrible are falling into this trap, right? But it doesn't really matter in the sense that there are forces beyond the limited scope of fairness at work. And here's what Fisher King brings up. Recurrent theme among white collar workers in their 30s and 40s is, did I really spend all that time in school for this? Economy deadens intelligent people, makes them feel trapped, humiliates them. This is why the globalist system will collapse eventually. It's Fritz Lang's Metropolis. So I'll get into the Fritz Lang Metropolis if you don't know what it is yet. So when he says the economy deadens intelligent people, makes them feel trapped and humiliates them, that's why you get everyone so focused on fairness and I wasn't treated fair. But it's on all sides, right? They're not being treated fair and they're not being treated fair. And everyone's arguing while they're just getting robbed. They're just getting robbed blind by worrying about fairness and all of this stuff. So when Fisher King here brings up Fritz Lang Metropolis, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, heard it, know what it's about. It was a movie made in the Weimar Republic in Germany. And it's the one where you really see that model of C-3PO, the droid from Star Wars, is sort of based on this model. And it's about a robot. So the story is there's you're living in the future. It's dystopia. There's really two classes of people. There's the rich people, and they run everything. And you're dealing with the son of the guy who runs everything. There's a group of school children from underground. They live underground. They're there as workers. And so the workers who live underground come up on a school trip, and they go to see how the really wealthy people live. And the son of, kind of the prince, sees this school class, and he's just gardens and does leisure all day. But he falls in love with the teacher, a female. And he goes down below ground, and meets her and sees that she's a hero of the working people. But then there's another person involved who's like a scientist, and he's created a robot, and the robot is supposed to take the place of his lost wife or something. But now the young prince who goes down to see the woman, his father, who's the king or whatever, he gets that guy to give him the robot, uses the robot to look like the girl who's the hero, and then sets her up to be a failure, to lose her standing with the working people. So the kid sees the dad kissing the robot, thinks the girl's cheating on him. In the end, the guy, when he's falling in love with the woman and the teacher, the prince, he has a nightmare about what's actually going on, and like a vision, an epiphany, when he's down below ground, and he sees all of the children and all of these people that are done, like an explosion goes off or something, and basically he sees them all as working for Moloch, the god to which all of the human sacrifices were dedicated previous to Jesus Christ. So all of these religions, and previous to the Judaic faith, I should say. So Moloch is sort of the god of this world, and that's what the prince wants to fight against, because he sees all of this, all of the kids getting killed from poor working conditions and everything. So it's sort of a communist theme, if you haven't picked up on that already, obviously. So in the end, happy ending. They save the kids. They don't get fed to Moloch, and the world gets better. So he puts all this into the context of where this movie and how it was produced, and the climate in which it was produced, and compares it to now. So here's what he says. So a recurrent theme of the white collar workers in their 30s and 40s is, did I really spend all that time in school for this? And the economy deadens these intelligent people, right? So what he goes on to say is, just previous to the Weimar Republic, when this was being generated, what he says is, this is why people who flooded the streets in 1914 celebrated the outbreak of World War I. People threw off their deadening shackles, suddenly felt alive. From 1815 to 1914, there were little contained wars among great powers, but nothing explosive. It's now 2023, and nothing dramatic in world stage implications has erupted since 1945. It's a matter of time. To the people who say it won't collapse soon, that's possible. But when overly rigid, complex systems that immiserate the majority do collapse, it happens shockingly, suddenly, for reasons no one foresaw. So this could all end in a few years, decades, or even a century or two. And put that right next to, so this is, you get Fisher King talking about Moloch in a quote about how terrible everything is going these days, and Mike Solana, and about the deadening spiritual capacity, not fucking Bud Light. And like, Bud Light, who cares about beer, man? Why aren't we talking about getting rid of beer? Bud Light, virtue signaling beer? Come on. So Mike Solana says the following. And Mike Solana, who didn't show at Bitcoin 2023, but we forgive him, he might come to the next show, says the following. How is it even possible to spend $31 trillion and not end up with fusion or bullet trains or a little old moon colony even? So he's talking again about the debt ceiling. My healthcare is still expensive and it sucks. I'm paying my own rent. Like, is there actually going, where is it actually going? I genuinely don't get it. Remember what we talk about all the time, how hard it is to imagine the future if you use fiat as a predictive lens. You can't, right? You can't. Why is the video? Yeah, I'm a little worried about my connection here with the Starlink. That's why it's low quality. In case you're wondering. So Mike Solana says all this, right? Where we spent all this money, we got nothing for it. How is this even possible? And he asked the questions, where is it actually going? I genuinely don't get it. And someone answered, Moloch. Moloch, right? The same person as the Fritz Lang vision in Metropolis. And Solana responds to him, this is the only reasonable comment so far. And indeed, Moloch is sort of at the center of all of this child stuff and what's going on. And so, look, it isn't about the details necessarily about what is a woman and what are we doing. Of course, the children thing is super important, but remember, it's about the distractions. It's about the confusion that's caused in this environment, and that amount of confusion, that amount of stress and anxiety opens the door for something totally and radically different, right? Because it's so terrible, the opportunity to fix it all at once becomes a reality. And for those people, just like Fisher King says, oh, it won't happen soon, right? It won't collapse soon. Well, well, we are living in this environment today. And if you look at the potential that is now out there, right, you get oh, I did have the Andrew Tate quotes here. Yeah, here, let me just read what Tate says. So the interviewer says, you said an image of financial success with a Bugatti and a cigar, but it comes with a side order of misogyny. How does having a Bugatti, Tate answers, and a cigar come with misogyny? Williamson, the interviewer, says, because it's all mixed together in what you teach. You teach that if a woman comes home and accuses you of cheating, you should hit her with a machete, shove her up against the wall. And Tate says, is that what I teach? That's what you say. And Tate says, no, if you watch the clip, it will be about the woman attacking me with a machete. As usual, you've not watched the video, taken it out of context, flipped it, and attempted to attack me with a small excerpt, right? So doing the typical media thing. And if that's the environment we're in, right? If that is actually the environment we're in when we have no faith in the media, it's just nothing but garbage. You set up a situation where the appetite, just as Daniel says here, gradually then suddenly. And not only gradually then suddenly, you're going to get surprising things that are so attractive. Look at this, right? Kennedy yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., right? Is he getting caught up in all of this stuff? No, right? He came out and responded to a Samson Mao tweet about Lightning Network. So he says yesterday, Lightning, this is from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a serious candidate for president. Lightning opens up an exciting future with the guarantee of transactional freedom, which is as important as freedom of speech. Thanks for supporting this initiative, Samson. So all of a sudden, you now have an opportunity for wild and different things, right? It's not just that. Have a look at what happened in Hong Kong in the past few days with stablecoin issuance. So now they've issued a US dollar stablecoin abroad, and it's fully regulated. It will mesh with any American thing. And people are saying, oh, we're just driving innovation abroad. Well, this is something Janet Yellen and those forces asked for, right? They thought they could kill stablecoins by pushing them away from the United States. And this all comes down to this idea of what can America even ban now? What can they even stop? It turns out they cannot even ban people issuing crypto US dollars any longer. That is the extent to which they do not control this network. They don't control what's happening. They don't even control their own network, let alone anything else in the world. So people more and more are waking up to the idea that the system in place simply doesn't have the vitality to do what it says it can do, and that it can't even create a future that is competitive. So the contrast becomes clear. Because it can't create a future, because you can't even imagine a future, because it doesn't have the toolkit to create the future it's saying it could create if it could, you come to a situation where it really just matters what people are building, what people are doing in the real world in order to compete with that system, right? So I'm not talking about collapse. I'm not talking about all this thing going away and therefore it's Bitcoin. I'm talking about Bitcoin getting built and will become so much more attractive, so much more useful than the other system, that it's not a collapse. It's just a change of attention. You just turn your attention elsewhere. And I think that's where we're headed, right? I think that's where it's headed, because the show that's on here that we're seeing the beer and the debt limit and the woke and the do this, it's all performance on either side. And the performance doesn't produce anything. It's just performance on both sides. Trump and his Woodstock thing. Oh, we got to save democracy. Let's bring all the boomers to a democracy festival and we're going to vote and we're going to revitalize American institutions, right? Nope. Not going to happen that way. Now, definitely you see what's going on as well. RFK getting censored on Instagram, right? So yesterday, RFK not getting a fair shake in the Democrat system. But again, we can cry unfairness all day. It's not going to do anything. What RFK is doing is much more attractive. If you're going to go out and cry about Instagram, right? Oh, I got censored. Well, I mean, everyone knows it's coming. It's just your reality, right? Of course, it's not fair. I'm not talking about fairness here. But at the same time, to come out and talk about lightning and free speech and free money is so much more positive, so much more evolutionary than whining about censorship and whining about the old things that are already broken that we're not going to fix. We're never fixing this stuff. It's just going to change, right? So there you go. All right, pardon me, guys. I have a call that I'm already late to. Yeah, sorry, Gold 106. I don't have Starlink Basic, you buggers. I got a good Starlink. No, it's a little bit of cloud coverage. I could probably test it to go further, but I wanted stronger audio. So if you force the video to come through with too much quality. So my Starlink is great for download time. It sucks for upload time and for upload power. So there you go. Let me know if there's any trouble other than the video quality. Which maybe tomorrow I'll try it differently. Maybe I'll try it differently tomorrow. But that's what's up. All right, team. Peace. See you tomorrow. Thanks for coming today. I appreciate it.